Well, 4-week embryo, kind of interesting. Here he is in there, human embryo. Got the little yolk sac. The yolk sac, by the way, doesn't really make yolk. Blood vessels are developed in there in the earliest stages of blood formation. Let's get it out of the way. Evolutionists get really excited about these 4-week embryos. They say, look, it's got paddles. This is the fish stage. Oh, look, gills. I had a teacher, my daughter had a teacher in public school that said the baby uses the gills to breathe under the amniotic fluid. Wow. You can see the heart protruding there. The body's bent like a C because the nervous system grows faster than the rest of the body at first. And because it grows faster, it gets out ahead of the body. Notice the spinal cord has gone beyond the end of the body. That's because it's growing faster. If you look here, you see on the back, get my pointer up here, the spinal cord was growing so fast it got way out here and the body hasn't even kept up. There's those so-called gill slits. I can tell you 2 things about the gill slits that are absolutely true. You can bank on it. Number 1, they are not gills. Number 2, they're not slits. You get the idea? There are no gill slits. Now, what about that? Evolutionists look at that and say, there you go. There's your evidence for evolution. That's the tail stage. We have a tail. Well, as the baby grows, the body starts catching up, and what you see here protruding beyond the body ends up ending right about here in the smaller, just below the small of your back. That's where your spinal cord ends. And so then the body gets ahead of the spinal cord. It's not a tail. There's some little bones that develop down there at the end, and of course the spinal column has to end someplace, right? It is a linear structure, and there's a head on one end, and wherever the other end ends, there standing by will be an evolutionist pointing saying, see, a tail. But how can you avoid having the other end? I tried this with a rope once. I had 2 ends, I cut off one end. Every time I cut off an end, I still had 2 ends. So Ernst Haeckel, back at the time of Darwin, talked about these gill slits being reminiscent of our evolutionary development, said the embryos in their development went through all the stages of their evolution, or at least many of them, and he showed how similar the chicken and the dog and the pig and the human were. But it turns out that these drawings he made were completely falsified. It was a hoax. The man was a charlatan, essentially. It's not like that at all. And yet, years ago, Dr. Spock, remember him? You couldn't have a baby without reading Dr. Spock. It was considered the handbook for babies, or the manual. And Dr. Spock, in his book, Baby and Child Care, says each child as he develops is retracing the whole history of mankind, physically and spiritually, step by step. A baby starts off in the womb as a single tiny cell, just the way the first living thing appeared in the ocean. Weeks later, as he lies in the amniotic fluid of the womb, he has gills like a fish. Notice he even says we're retracing spiritually our evolutionary history. Well, this just simply isn't true. This has been known to be untrue for a long time. Here's a paper that was in a journal some time ago, and they pointed out that Haeckel's embryos are just simply a fraud. That if you look at the real, compare the real embryos, they're not similar at all between the different animals. I mean, they have general overall similarities, but they're fundamental differences that he did not show. In fact, many evolutionists have said the same thing. This whole embryology, this recapitulation business, that our embryo, when it develops, kind of reminisces on our evolutionary history, that is just simply not true. Paul Ehrlich, you've probably heard of him, he says this interpretation of embryological sequences just won't stand close examination. Its shortcomings have been almost universally pointed out by modern authors, but the idea still has a prominent place in biological mythology. And where would you go for biological mythology today? I suggest any high school biology textbook, or college, for example. Biology Principles and Explorations by Holt and Reinhardt, a widely used textbook. There they are. The whole recapitulation myth, as we call it today, it is a myth. Lined up in a row, showing you how the embryos retrace their evolutionary history. Want another book? This is McGraw-Hill's text. Same thing. Evidence from embryos. See our evolutionary ancestry. It just goes on and on. What are those little folds anyway? Well, they have nothing to do with gills and respiration. Those folds we see in the neck go on in the embryo to develop into a number of different organs, and you see some of them illustrated here. The ear canal, some of the bones of the middle ear, the eustachian tubes, the thyroids, the parathyroids. There are a number of structures. Notice none of them have anything to do with respiration. They are completely separate structures. They are not gills.